to ask you something, and I want you to actually think about the answer rather than just moving on. How many rules did you break last week? Not a rough estimate. Actually, think about it. Moved to stop loss, sized up outside of your plan, took a trade that didn't meet your criteria, or held past your exit. Now, here's the more important question. What did that cost you? Not just in dollars. What did it cost you in terms of your next trade, your next day, your confidence going into the following week? Because there's a cost to every breach that most traders never account for. And it's the reason why one bad trade often leads to three more. In trading psychology, we spend a lot of time talking about why traders break rules. The impulsivity, the emotional reaction, the overconfidence, or the fear. But what we don't talk about enough is what happens after. The aftermath of a breach is where the real damage is done, and it's compounding damage, not isolated. And here's what I mean. So you take a trade outside your plan. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Either way, something has shifted. If it worked, you've just been rewarded undisciplined behavior. Your brain has logged, breaking the rule produced a positive outcome, and that's a dangerous internal record. And if it didn't work, which is the more common scenario, you're now carrying the weight of that breach into your next session, your next decision, your next trade. You're not evaluating the next setup clearly. You're evaluating it through the lens of, I need to make this back, or I need to prove I'm not the kind of trader who does that. And that cognitive and emotional load is invisible on the chart, but it is absolutely present in your execution. I track what I call execution integrity, EI percentage. It's a simple metric. Of all the trades you took this week, what percentage were fully compliant with your rules? Entry criteria met, size correct, stop placed as planned, and exit as planned. Not mostly right, fully compliant. Most experienced traders, when they actually run this number honestly, find they're somewhere between 60 and 80%, which means on 2 to 4 out of every 10 trades, they're operating outside their own framework. And that might not sound catastrophic, but here's what the data shows. Your regulation score, which is your overall performance on the psychological metrics that matter, drops significantly below that 80% threshold. Execution quality doesn't just dip linearly as breaches increase, it drops off a cliff. And the reason a breach is compounding, each rule violation slightly elevates your activation level. Each elevated AL makes the next violation more likely. You don't breach once and reset. You breach once and your threshold for the next breach lowers. So think of it like a structural integrity problem. One crack in a building doesn't bring it down, but one crack weakens the structure. So the next stress point causes a bigger failure. By the third or fourth breach in a session, you're not the same trader you were at trade one. This is why the traders who struggle most are often not struggling with bad strategies. They're struggling with breach cascades. A fully compliant losing day is recoverable. A low compliance day, even if it ends break even, has done structural damage to your psychological state going forward. Here's how to know if breach compounding is operating in your trading right now. Look at your journal, if you keep one, and find your worst weeks, not just by P&L, by compliance. And I would bet that your worst weeks by P&L also had your lowest EI percentage. Not because bad luck caused both, because low compliance was the common thread. The other marker, notice how you feel at the start of a session versus after your breach. Before the session, you're often quite calm. You have your plan, you know your levels, you feel prepared. After one breach, something shifts. There's a kind of internal justification that starts. Well, I've already deviated, so. Well, that so is the entry point for everything that follows. And if you're honest, you'll recognize that the second breach in a session almost always happens faster than the first. The third, faster still. And that's not coincidence. That's compounding. The intervention I use with traders is called the rule violation protocol. The moment you recognize a breach, not at the end of the day, in the moment, you stop. You name it, not to punish yourself, but to interrupt the cascade. You ask 3 questions. What rule did I just break? What was my activation level when I broke it? What is my activation level right now? And that third question is the most important, because if your AL is elevated after the breach and you continue trading without addressing that, you're walking into the next trade compromised. You are not trading your strategy. You are trading your dysregulated nervous system. The decision then becomes, can I regulate back into range before the next setup, or do I need to step away entirely? And this is not about being soft on yourself. This is about understanding that capital preservation and psychological preservation are the same discipline. Protecting your state is protecting your account. And the second piece, start tracking your EI percentage. Track it after every single trade. This is non-negotiable. When you have a concrete number, you can see patterns and you stop guessing and you start diagnosing. I want to challenge you this week. Run your EI percentage after every trade and then after every session. And at the end of each day, go through your trades and be honest. Full compliance counts. Partial compliance does not. So at the end of the week, look at the correlation between your EI percentage and your P&L. I think you'll find it's much tighter than you expected. And if you want the full tracking system that I use with my clients, the link is below. And drop a comment. What's the most common rule that you break? I'd love to know. And subscribe if you're getting value from this. And I'll see you on the next one.